Hello, everybody. It's your friendly neighborhood advisor here, Alexander Quinn, and today I'm going to be telling you how to invest your way to $1,000,000. All right, so tip number one, ignore that, that's my cat. Anyway, tip number one is asset allocation. Asset allocation is basically where you put your funds in multiple areas instead of just in one. If you put all your money in gasoline and gasoline goes down, that sucks. Even if it seems like it's for sure thing, you can't predict everything, and well, at least I assume you can't. But anyway, so if you can share the knowledge, share the skills. Anyway, yeah, you want to put your money across multiple assets, multiple different areas as well. Don't just pick a tech industry, this, that, etc. And just diversify your portfolios, or just choose a portfolio in general that is an index fund or already an accumulation of various aspects, various parts of the angles of the market. All right. This diversification makes it so that you are getting a chunk of the market in various places. If you think about, let's say, so during COVID, when the typical person was doing poorly financially, and a lot of businesses also were hit by it in various ways, then if you look at the top companies, the most traded companies like Google, Amazon, Apple, Tesla, etc., those companies actually did better than ever. They skyrocketed. So if you are diversifying your assets into, let's say, an S&P 500, for example, where you're getting a piece of the top 500 most traded companies, then your funds would have actually done better during that crisis instead of worse. So it actually makes a great hedge fund to go ahead and do that. So I recommend to diversify your assets, or what's called asset allocation, into various areas. Also, to be clear, asset allocation usually means that you also don't want to put everything into stocks. So even if you're going to diversify your assets within the stock fields, you also want to have your funds in some other area besides stocks if you're going to do true asset allocation. Historically and traditionally, people would offset it with a little bit of bonds. I don't recommend that, because over time, while the rates of inflation and everything have kind of they over time, the markets change, the economy changes, bonds have not adjusted for that change. And I think it's because bonds are doing pretty well for the most part. They don't really need to. So since they haven't adjusted for that, you now get, yes, a guaranteed amount, but it's no longer, it used to be an amount that was worth the risk. And at this point, it has not adjusted to fit the risk that we're currently facing. So you actually want to, I don't recommend offsetting it with bonds. I don't think that's a good hedge. Just statistically, it's not going to do very well. And S&P 500 statistically does pretty well. Even if you went in at the worst time and came out at the worst time, if you choose a 10-year period, as long as you keep it in for 10 years, there's not, I'm pretty sure there's not a single time in history where over a 10-year period, you did not get an average of 10% per year returns on it, as long as you just kept it in that whole time, because markets adjust. When they go down, they go up, they just go, they wave, and over time, they just kind of make this type of line, whether it's the Great Depression or anything else. And that's historically. So we've learned some things from those mistakes. We're probably not going to hit that again. So moving forward, it's very, very, very unlikely that something is gonna hit us so hard that that it's worse than that, unless we're talking Armageddon. Even COVID, if you look at the numbers, we we did fine. Again, we learned some lessons from the Great Depression and how to kind of handle that. So S&P 500 fund, or S&P small cap, if you got a bigger stomach for it, it's got more volatility, I call it, but it has a better return on average. So small cap is even better typically, but you need to have the stomach for it. Otherwise, the volatility can freak you out and you might pull out when you shouldn't. All right. So tip number two, all right, is actually going to be quite a few in one. Timing the market beats timing the market. Make your portfolio passive and choose something reliable. So I kind of already went into timing the market beats timing the market, and to choose something that's reliable. If you're doing asset allocation, that makes it more reliable. Also, if you, in fact, I mentioned that during COVID, if we have a crisis, that a lot of times the market actually works as a good hedge against those crises. But the time in the market beating timing the market, if you look at, if you saved up your money and you went in at like the 10 best times in history and you pulled out at the 10 best times in history, then the amount of money that you would have, according to studies, show that it's not that much different than if you just put your money in at the exact moments, whether it be the best times, worst times, whatever. And actually, it's not that much different from if you went in at the worst times and pulled out at the worst times as well. Studies show that while it is a concerning difference between the top and the bottom, this is assuming you have a crystal ball and assuming that you got the worst luck in the world that you need to do to prevent this. And even then, it just did not end up being that big of a deal. It wasn't. It was comparable to if you just had your money in like in a savings account or etc. So, and that again, that's the worst case scenario, which is so hard to do. You have to try to hit that, and even then, I don't think you could. So, just based on averages, you're gonna do just fine. Time in the market beats timing the market every time. It's not actually, it's so unlikely for this to not be the case that historically there's actually not a time that I was able to find where someone actually managed to do this even by chance. So, yes, a lot of people lost money during the Great Depression, etc., and during bubbles. But what I mean is when they just chose an investing strategy and they just kind of went out and yes, people do lose sometimes, but I mean where they kept it in during a long period of time and sporadically, barely touched it, actually investing, not trying to beat the market. So just when the chance happened upon them while they were in there long term. Anyway, so to make your portfolio passive as well is to just have something where you don't need to worry about it. That is actually what a portfolio is. It's where the S&P 500, for example, it just looks at the 500 top traded companies and it automatically invests into those companies, and that's it. You don't really have to do any work for it. You don't have to pay anybody. You don't have to calculate. You don't have to watch the market. Nothing. Just leave it there until you're ready to take it out. And if you really think it's going to be a bad time, then put it into something a little bit safer as you're getting closer to retirement. If you think that a bad time's coming up, just reap the rewards a little bit early. Pull them out and put them somewhere safe in your mattress and in the savings account. And tip number 3 officially is to avoid fees. So just make sure that wherever you invest the funds, does not have fees or has like the minimum fees possible, because what tends to happen is if you pay someone to manage the fund, then you usually lose more than you gain. Actually, no, I think you gain whatever additional you get tend to be eaten up by those, and they take funds for sure. Whereas it's not for sure whether or not your portfolio will do any better. And actually, the statistics show that you either break even or you tend to do a little worse. Sometimes statistics show that you tend to do a little bit better, but I think that's depending on the economy, how predictable it is, who is really involved in the study, who's doing the study, what they want the study to show, if it's a little bias here and there. But the point is the evidence just is not conclusive to say that it's worth paying someone to manage it. So you should just, if you want to have someone else handle that, then you should probably just copy what the pros do. Look up who's the best. I think it's Warren Buffett. Yeah, he's the best usually. That's usually the popular opinion. So yeah, so you can copy him, or you can just choose a portfolio, choose a company that's not going to charge you, or is going to charge you a minimal amount for you to go in and get your funds. And the bonus tip, and this is really the icing on the cake, here's the reason why this will easily and effectively get you to $1 million, is because as long as you can invest $2 a day, not even actually, you do about $1.50 per day. Depends on your age. If you're close to retirement, good luck trying to get returns from investing without a crystal ball. But if you invest about $1.50 a day, then your funds you'll have about $1 million in 50 years. Here's how that math works: is because if you make about 10% per year, which is the typical average, the average is actually 10 to 12% for S&P 500, and it's it's a little bit more for the S&P small cap actually. So if you look at statistically what you get over time, it doubles. The S&P 500 doubles about every 7 years, and the small cap doubles, I think, about every 5 years. So we'll say 7 years. We'll say I leave it in there for 20 years. 7 times 3, just for easy math. So if it doubles 3 times, that is my money times 8. And if you're putting in $1.50 a day and you do the compound math, find an amortization calculator online if you'd like, and crunch the numbers, and you will see that for $1.50 a day in 50 years, you will have $1 million. And guess what? $1 million gets you in retirement. It doesn't get you very far if you pull it out right away, but if you leave it in the stocks and you're getting 10% per year from it, that 10% is $100,000. You're getting $100,000 a year. Plus, it's capital gains tax. So that's 15% tax instead of the, 45% tax you pay if it was personal income. So you're actually getting time and a half compared to if it was a job, except you don't actually need to work. So for $1.50 a day for 50 years, you could be living the life. Anyway, I hope this helps somebody out there. You all take care. Have a wonderful day.